The basic skills of English are the receptive skills, listening and reading, and the productive skills, speaking and writing.
But we're often asked, how do you teach this? How do we learn this? Do we take them all one at a time? Do we go deep on the reading and then on the writing? Do we go to the speaking or the listening? How do we go about this?
The answer?
It depends.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Waiguo Friends English. It is hard to learn English. Can we just say that? It's hard to learn any language. It takes a lot of work. It's like losing weight. For somebody who's not used to losing weight, it's not something that they do regularly. You have to deny yourself, and you have to be disciplined over and over and over again, even though no one else around you is.
That is so true. And English learning, as a result of this discipline that is required, a lot of times people wonder to which strategy I should use when learning English. Should I do a deep dive in my listening skills? Should I do a deep dive in my spoken ability? And the answer is, it really depends on what you are going to do with your language.
So, for example, if your goal is simply to hold conversations and get around town and travel, you don't really need a lot. You could focus on listening and speaking and get it by just fine. A little bit of survival reading, that's fine. Some people just want to avoid writing at all costs. They just hate writing. But if you really need to translate English and you want to be able to translate written texts, you should probably focus on your reading and writing pretty well.
We knew foreigners when we lived abroad that they wouldn't touch writing with a 10-foot pole because they were just so like, I can do speech to text now. I don't have to have a whole lot of written information. I can use apps to help me with the reading. I don't have to do it. So I'm just going to focus on the speaking and the listening.
But the problem with that is you're kind of shortchanging yourself a bit. If you go with the approach where you're only going to learn 2 skills, or 3 skills, right? You're going to cut the other one out. You're kind of robbing your brain of having another way to hang on to the information you're learning. Here's the thing. The human brain learns best when it can work a problem or approach a problem from multiple perspectives, from multiple sides. So when you're working on, I'm listening to how to talk to a doctor. I'm listening to how to explain this thing. I'm listening to podcasts about, let's say, for example, you're pregnant in America. You're going to the doctor and you're learning how to talk. You're learning about all these new mom terms. You're learning about all these vocabulary and phrases that you're going to use and that you're going to hear from the doctor. You're learning that from podcasts. You've got to be able to speak with that too. You've got to engage with it. You've got to speak through your ideas and your perspectives. You've also got to be able to read those documents though. You've got to be able to understand what you're getting when you see it. And yes, we have translation services here in America and many hospitals, but it's still a challenge. It's kind of nice to be able to see those words and to connect them with what you're pronouncing as you speak and as you hear them. It's also nice to be able to learn to write them because writing is actually one of the most important skills for engaging your long-term memory.
Specifically in the languages that we learned, there were so many people that just saw the Mandarin characters as such a big challenge. So challenging that they would not even do any study on it. But the reality is that engages a completely different part of our brain, completely different part of my brain. It means that I have other ways to interpret, to understand language. It's not just a matter of sounds pushed together that allows me to communicate this meaning, but there are words and there are word pictures that I can use in the language, in my own language, in writing to help me memorize these terms. If I'm going to go to the hospital, I need more than than just a Quizlet deck to help me remember them. I need to be able to write them, be able to speak them, be able to listen to them. And that means more than simply just focusing on the speaking.
But even if your goal is not to have a baby here in America or not to be able to read documentation or not be able to write your opinion on something, okay, that's great. But still, your brain will cling to the English that it learns much better, far better, if you're using multiple skills to engage that language. For this reason, we are proponents of it using at least 2, ideally 3 of the 4 skills in every exercise.
Do something like reading a recipe and then either talking through that recipe or doing it yourself or making a video about the dish that you just made. And then you write your own idea of how it turned out, saying, this didn't turn out very good. I tried it and it didn't work. Try to incorporate several skills together in the same exercise because it gives you more memory hooks in order for you to latch on to the idea of what it is to do an instructional kind of content so that next time you do something that is also instructional, you have that practice of integrating the skills together.
You can also read the news or listen to the news and then write a brief summary of what you just learned, and make sure you use some of those new words that you gained. Write a brief summary, 2 to 3 sentences. What was that article about? Try to do that really quick, just 5 minutes, nothing long. And then try to bring it up in conversation later in the day with somebody. Try to talk about it and try again to use those words that you picked up, or try to use a phrase that you caught in the article. What is that person's opinion? And try to explain and use that conversation skill on that topic that you picked up through listening or reading and a little bit of writing.
A lot of people looked at me when I was studying Mandarin and they were like, wow, this guy can do so many things. He can read, he can listen, he can speak. And the only reason it was like that was because I was very narrowly focused on all of the skills. I didn't just focus in on just the speaking and listening. I allowed the written Chinese language to influence the way that I speak, not by using antiquated or old vocabulary or only written vocabulary when I speak. That would be awkward. I'm talking about it influenced the way that I thought about language. It influenced the way that I approached language. I was not scared to write a review after I tried out a product, after I listened to a podcast, to leave a comment in Chinese. I was not scared to be able to speak about an article that I just read and wrote about. I had the ability because I had engaged with the language, all parts of the language. And for you guys, if you're not doing this, especially at the advanced levels, you are really missing out on the language side of things, because you need to be able to grab the language from all different angles so that you can be able to dive deep, especially in this marathon that is language learning.
Now, I will say it takes a little bit of time and it takes discipline. It does not have to take a super long time. You can read the headline of something and you can write down or verbally speak to yourself and say, oh, this is what I think that article's probably about. Or I think this is where it's coming from, especially if it's something you've been following for a while. But you don't have to make it a very long exercise. In fact, I really recommend that you don't make it a long exercise, because the odds of you keeping up that practice for the long term is not high. So try to do something really short, something that takes you less than 15 minutes a day, and engage at least 3 skills, at least 2, at the very least 2 skills, but try to do 3. And make sure you rotate around. Don't go a full week without writing, okay? Don't go a full week without really speaking to anybody. You need to be hitting on all the skills multiple times each week, ideally all in one day, but that's not possible for everybody, especially if you have work and kids and study and, chores, life in general. But you can really do a lot with a very intentional 15 minutes a day.
Part of everything that we're saying is that you need to be able to engage different areas, and you need to be able to engage different things in different ways. One of the things that I have heard that people have tried to have this new approach to learning English is you'll learn thousands of words every day by just focusing on the prefixes and suffixes and the roots, and you'll learn so many things. That is a solution, but it's not going to be the one solution that's going to make or break your fluency. It's a different way to engage the language, and you, as a language learner, need to utilize these different strategies in order for you to be able to grow towards fluency, because there's a lot of pitfalls along the way.
But again, if you don't care to learn English or reach fluency, if you don't care to get to the advanced levels in English, this isn't the route you need to go. This isn't something you should be putting yourself through, that difficulty, that trial. You don't really have to do that. You can memorize your words, you can memorize your travel phrases, whatever, and get through. But odds are, if you're watching this video, you are probably one who's interested in trying to reach fluency, or at least a more flexible level of English, somewhere in the advanced levels where you can communicate, you can get done what you need to get done in English, you can understand what your kids are saying when they come home from school, whatever it is. You're trying to engage something. And if you're looking for flexibility and expression, you really, really need to get into working on being flexible by paying a little bit of attention in every study session that you have, paying a little attention to each of these skills all at once.
A key part of doing this idea of integrating the language skills is make sure that you have a plan. Don't just go at the whims of what you find on the side of the road, because that is not going to make you very fluent. Because there are certain times where either you don't have the time or the resource isn't really there to help you with integrating other skills. So you need to be on the lookout of how to do this yourself, how to have these approaches, how to find these resources, and then integrate them. It's something that is going to require some discipline, but the reward is well worth it.
Joining a program is a good way to do this. There's a lot of programs out there that offer this, where they offer either pre-constructed lessons that hit on all of the skills, or they give you articles with questions and verbal responses and things like that. Want a high-end, like personally tailored one? Our Fluency Fast Track is a great way to do that because we are giving you feedback on everything you do. And we're engaging with you actively. And we meet like 22 plus hours every month in order to really help you get out there and get that speaking practice, that listening practice. And we bring out your writing. We work on all of those things. We have it set up so that you don't have to think about it. That's the main thing. And if you can do that for yourself, where you are not having to think about it or go out and find the things, you're more likely to actually do it. Create the habit and just do it.
So the idea of gathering resources is important. Another thing that you can do as you gather these resources and as your English level changes is using different strategies. That's why we've done a video recently talking about these different strategies that you can use to engage these different parts of language. So if you're doing Simon Says or a TPR related game, then how is another way that you can bring that in? And so these language learning strategies are an effective way that you can naturally bring these different skills of language learning together.
All right, guys, go watch that video. It's a good one. It's super helpful. Other than that, we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.